Hey guys, Prepper Nurse 1 here. I wanted to actually do a follow-up video on the police, and had a few comments of people saying to me that all cops aren't bad and all this type of stuff. And I agree with that. I don't believe that all cops are bad. You know, these guys that go out every day and they put their lives on the line, dealing with stuff that a lot of us don't even want to have to even think about dealing with. I personally could never be a cop because I have a hatred towards pedophiles. I mean, like, I can't even begin to tell you. Just because kids are so innocent. And if I was a cop and I had to take and arrest a pedophile that I know was molesting kids, I would probably take that baton and beat the crap out of them. I mean, that's just me personally. So, I mean, never even wanted to be a cop. Now, that being said, I know that they have they call it the blue wall of silence, that if somebody's doing something underhanded, they don't tell on each other. Now, I'm going to use an example of something that happened, and this has happened back in the 70s, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie Serpico, and he was a police officer in New York City, and the corruption was so rampant, and he wouldn't take money, so he was an outcast because he wouldn't take money, and they actually eventually set him up to where he was going to be killed, and he got shot in the face, and but he ended up getting like 1/3 of the narcotics division was on the take. I mean, it was like ridiculous numbers of people that ended up being arrested because of corruption and taking money and stealing from drug dealers and stuff like that. You take a person and you put them in a position of power, and let's say I'm a cop and I'm working with a couple of my cop buddies and we do a big drug bust, and let's say there's $5 million on the table cash and whatever amount of drugs. Well, if we only turn in $4 million of the cash and we whack up the rest of it, who's going to know? I mean, these things happen all the time, okay? Do people get set up? Yes, they do. Do cops have a bad day and decide they're going to teach somebody a lesson? It happens all the time. Like I said, I just, there's a tremendous amount of corruption, and I'm just going to use my local police force here in Greece, New York. We had the chief of police went to prison for corruption. We had a couple of other cops that one had been in a car accident and hit a girl that was pregnant, and ended up leaving the scene when his buddies got there, and well, he was drunk and he was high on cocaine, and the girl ended up losing her baby. Now, he did end up going to prison, but they tried to cover it up. They tried to cover for each other. A lot of cops, if the cop is drunk and they pull him over and they flash their badge, they get away with it. I mean, now there's certain cops that won't let that happen, but it does happen all the time. Another good example, I have a cousin that's also a police officer. He's a police officer in Florida, and his father had passed away, so he drove up here for the funeral. And we were talking, and he had said, I mean, he was driving up here at 100 miles an hour in his car, and he was pulled over 3 times, and all he had to do all 3 times was flash his badge that he was a cop, and they let him go. Have a good day. I mean, the laws don't apply to them like they apply to everybody else. Now, that's not fair. Now, like I said, again, they do put their lives on the line every day. We had a police officer here in Rochester that was killed recently, by a guy that was just out of prison, and he killed him. Now, that obviously that guy's going to go back to prison for the rest of his life, but that guy's still dead. And I mean, so I realize they have a very tough job. Don't get me wrong. And like I said, I always give respect to cops. I mean, I'm not a big fan of cops just because some of the stuff that I've dealt with personally. But I don't act like a jerk when a cop pulls me over either. I don't give them an attitude. I don't give them an excuse to make me have a very bad day, because I realize that cops can make you have a really bad day, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, I don't play with the police. It's not a game to me. I don't, like I said. So when I had somebody say that, why do you say yes or no, sir? I just do it. It's a respect thing, you know. If you treat them with respect, they're going to treat you with respect. So, you know, and they're in a position, like I said, they can ruin your day. So why cop an attitude with somebody that can throw you in jail? And, you know, and they're going to believe his word over yours. That's just the way it is. You know, they're going to believe him because he's an officer of the law. Now, do I think a lot of cops get into being police officers because it's a power trip and they want that power? Absolutely. They love it. They can't get enough of it, you know, and they can bully people around that way, you know. So, like I said, there's good cops and there's bad cops, but unfortunately, we do hear only about the bad cops in the news. But it's just, you know, over and over and over again. Do I think the role of the police officer has changed? Yes, I do. You know, I believe that their job basically now is to create revenue. We'll give you state troopers, like the New York State Troopers. I took care of a state trooper's daughter, and he told me, he said, if you think that there's not a quota for amount of tickets that you write, if you don't write a certain amount of tickets, they will come to you and say you need to write more tickets. So, you know, that's why you see them on, like, our local main road is 390. It's an expressway. They're sitting on there all the time. And all the time, I mean, because I travel down to my property and back that way. And I see the cops got somebody pulled over all the time. And it's about a revenue stream. The towns are making money from it. You know, a certain amount goes back to the troopers, and that's how they make their money. So, you know, but the thing is, again, when I'm traveling that route, I'm not traveling in a rate of speed that they're going to want to pull me over and give me a hard time. You know, it's just, you know, it's a catch-22. You know, it's basically a game. You know, why am I going to do something to aggravate them or antagonize them? I mean, I see a lot of the videos where people, you know, they're exerting their rights, and I have this right, or they'll come to a checkpoint and they put their window down this much and they give the cop an attitude. You know what? If I'm not drunk and I haven't been drinking and I come up to a checkpoint and he says to me, "Have you been drinking?" I'm going to say, "No, I'm not drinking." And he's going to look at me and he's going to see that I'm sober and he's going to let me go on my way. Why give him an attitude? Why give him an excuse to give you a hard time? I don't get it. But, I mean, that's just me. You know, I'm not looking to make a stand or cause trouble, you know, because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with them being a jerk to me, you know. There's no reason for it. So, and again, it's just, you know, it's just the way that's just the way it is. Is it right that they can do the things that they do? Absolutely not. But like I said, I mean, and here's the thing too, when you've been a cop for so long, and I've talked to a lot of cops, and I mean, like I said, I don't have an issue with cops for the most part. I try to avoid problems. You know, I've dealt with some cops that I thought were jerks, and I dealt with some cops that were really cool. But if you're in that position, they become jaded. They look at everybody as a suspect. You know, they don't look at you as just a normal person. You are a suspect. And they're looking to jam you up. You know, and so if you don't give them a reason to jam you up, they're not going to. And that's just because of what they deal with on a daily basis. I wouldn't want to deal with, you know, domestic violence and pedophiles and murderers and rapists and you know, scumbags and people giving them an attitude all the time. I wouldn't want to deal with that on a daily basis. And yeah, they get an attitude because of that. So, you know, I look at it in that aspect as well, okay? And what they have to deal with, you know, I wouldn't want to deal with that. I mean, you know, that's why I'm not a cop. So, you know, I wanted to do this video because I know the last time I've basically been talking about a lot of the negative stuff in the media and stuff like that. So, no, not all cops are bad. And I think that there's a lot of good cops out there trying to do their job. But they also will say nothing when somebody's doing underhanded, dirty stuff, you know, because they have that blue coat of silence. And when one of these cops do speak up and say, "Hey, this isn't right," what happens to them? They get blackballed and they get kicked off the force. You know, it's just, you know, it's just the way it is. I'm going to give you a good example of something that happened to me personally. And this is not dealing with the cops. This is dealing with the job. I was working, and I'll even say what it was. It was Monroe Developmental Center. I was working with the you know, mentally challenged people, special needs, if you will. You know, a lot of Down syndromes and profoundly, and I'm going to say the word, so please don't be offended, profoundly mentally retarded, okay? So I worked for that company, and I worked in a group home in Hilton. And this is going back in, I'm going to say it was maybe 91, 1990, in that range. And you had to have a drug test to get the job. So I took my drug test, I got the job, and I worked in a group home in Hilton, New York. And I was one of two people that worked in that house that did not do drugs, okay? Everybody else in that house did drugs. And I don't have a problem with anybody doing what you got to do on your own time in your own business. I don't care. But don't do it on a job while we're working. So it was a Sunday, and we had taken the clients to church, and we were on the way back from church, and I'm driving the van, and my coworker lights up his bowl and starts smoking pot on the job in the van with a busload of clients. So I turned him in. Guess who lost their job? Not him. I did. I learned a very valuable lesson from that. You don't see nothing, you don't know nothing, and you don't hear nothing. Now that may sound jaded, but if you want to keep your job, and sometimes you have to shut your mouth and do what you got to do. Cops are the same way, okay? They see things that are corrupt, and they got to just pretend it's not happening and try to do the best that they can do. This is the honest cops I'm talking about. So it's a double-edged sword, and it's just the way it is. It's very political. And that was a state job, by the way, county job or whatever it was. But yeah, that's what happened. So, I learned a very valuable lesson from that, and I won't repeat that mistake. I may say to somebody, "Hey, I don't want to see you doing that on a job," and so I may go that route. But now, if I saw somebody abusing a patient, that's totally different. I would definitely report that in a minute. But as far as the other, I don't see nothing. I don't know nothing. But anyway, so like I said, I want to do this video. Like I said, not all cops are bad. I think a lot of them are out there trying to do the right thing, but unfortunately, there is an error of entitlement with the cops that they deserve special preferential treatment. And they do watch out for each other, and so I think that's why a lot of corruption they get away with a lot of corruption. There's a lot of things that gets covered up, and is that right? No, of course it's not right, but it is the way it is. So why goad the cops? Why try to piss them off? You know what? Like I said, I get pulled over, it's going to be yes sir, no sir, and that's it, and be out of my way as soon as I possibly can, and that's it. So listen, have a good day. Please comment, tell me what your thoughts are. Share your experiences with me, if you would like, in the comments. If you've had a good experience with cops or a bad experience with cops. I mean, I've had both. So, no, I do not think all cops are bad. And like I said, I worked for a state trooper's daughter. And I'm going to tell you right now, your biggest alcoholics are cops. They're out there and they're drinking and driving and they're getting away with it, And it is what it is. All right? Prepper Nurse 1 out for now. Have a nice day.